I am unlocking new levels daily. I am always moving towards what I want, even when I cannot see physically that I am making progress. My progress forward towards my success is inevitable. No matter how uncomfortable the transitions of life get, you must surrender to change. That's the only way you'll grow into who you're destined to be. In order to have new things come into your life, you must be willing to do the hard work to make room and space for it. Physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, declutter your atmosphere to prepare and make room for the better that is coming to you in each area. Thank you for joining me for another episode of MyCurlsSpeak With Key. This is Key. This week, our topic is a little more serious than our others. I would like to discuss depression. First, let's talk about what clinical depression is. The persistent feeling of sadness or loss of interest that categorizes major depression can lead to a range of behavior and physical symptoms. These may include changes in sleep, appetite, energy level, concentration, daily behavior, or self-esteem. Depression can also be associated with thoughts of suicide. People may experience anxiety, apathy, general discontent, guilt, hopelessness, loss of interest, mood swings, or extreme sadness. Agitation, excessive crying, irritability, social isolation, and when it comes to sleep, they could either sleep too much or not enough, or they could have it where they wake up out their sleep really early. Other things you may experience is obsessive hunger, fatigue, or loss of appetite, weight gain, or weight loss. Statistics. Adult African Americans are 20% more likely to report serious psychological distress than adult whites are. Adult African Americans living in poverty are 2 to 3 times more likely to report serious psychological distress than those not living in poverty. Among men aged 18 to 44 who had daily feelings of anxiety or depression, non-Hispanic blacks and Hispanic men are 26.4% less likely than non-Hispanic white men to have used mental health treatments. Suicide is the third leading cause of death for African American males ages 15 to 24. African American men ages 20 to 24 have the highest suicide rate among African Americans of all ages, male and female. African American teenagers are more likely to attempt suicide than are white teenagers. Young African Americans are much less likely than white youth to have used a mental health service in the year during which they seriously thought about or attempted suicide. Those are only the reported numbers. I believe all of us know at least 3 people who battle depression and have not sought medical attention due to embarrassment or just thinking that it's something that they can control on their own. A dear friend of mine lost his best friend to depression a couple of days ago. When we talked on the phone, all he kept saying was he could have called me. I would have been there. The thing about depression is the highs are high and the lows are extremely low. I'm sure his friend didn't call him because he didn't want to be talked out of the choice he made. He no longer had the strength to live. Depression isn't just a battle. It's an illness, and it affects so many people in our community. And there are so many different types of it. Clinical depression is what I was talking about in the beginning of this show. But we also have postpartum depression, also known as PPD. Depression that occurs after childbirth. Those who develop postpartum depression are at greater risk of developing major depression later on in life. When I had my son, my father died the next week. I reached one of the lowest times of my life then. I remember my mom being afraid to leave me home alone and asking my friends to come sit with me whenever she couldn't. I didn't understand why she was so extreme, but as time went on, I got it. She was so afraid I would hurt myself. I felt empty. The only people I would really allow to touch me were my children. As for everyone else, I completely disconnected. And at that time, I was actually married. I disconnected from my husband as well. I don't even think I allowed him to touch me until our son was about 6 to 7 months old. Some women with PPD are the opposite of how I was, though. Some women actually feel no attachment whatsoever to their children. Those are the women that you see snap and hurt their children without proper treatment and a support system. Things can end really badly with PPD. Symptoms might include insomnia, loss of appetite, intense irritability, and difficulty bonding with the baby. Also, all of the other symptoms of clinical depression that I mentioned earlier. Another type of depression that I also experience is seasonal depression, a mood disorder categorized by depression that occurs at the same time every year. Seasonal affective disorder occurs in climates where there is less sunlight at certain times of the year. I suffer from this, and it occurs November through January for me. Usually it ties into the holidays. I've been experiencing this ever since my father passed 5 years ago. I don't go anywhere. I don't engage with my friends or social media. I totally disconnect myself from most people during this time of the year. So you know those people who you think are Grinches or negative Nancys during the holidays, 9 times out of 10 experience seasonal depression. Last but definitely not least, let's discuss post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. A disorder in which a person has difficulty recovering after experiencing or witnessing a terrifying event. The condition may last months or years, with triggers that can bring back memories of trauma accompanied by intense emotional and physical reaction. Any traumatic event can cause this, but is most commonly found in military members or veterans, victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. I dated a veteran, and I remember wanting to see the fireworks on July 4th. Me being ignorant to his triggers, didn't realize that I was bringing him back to the Iraqi war until he started crying in my arms. I'm hoping that this episode enlightens you, but also encourages you to be more kind and empathetic. Back to my friend who lost his friend. If you or someone you know has lost someone due to depression, I hope you have a greater understanding and get that you're not to blame. Lend your ear, be a shoulder, but please understand that there's nothing you could have done to bring your loved one back or change his or her mind. Once they decided they didn't have the energy to live anymore, they made that choice. I know these words are hard to accept, and maybe if you listen to this a couple of times, it'll help. I pray it helps. Thank you for joining me for another episode of MyCurlsSpeak With Key. To follow the show, follow us on Instagram at MCS with Key. To get to know the voice behind everything, follow me at The Diary of Key on all platforms. That's Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and Clubhouse. On Clubhouse, The Diary of Key, it has 2 Y's on Key. Thanks again. See you next week. And one more thing. If you have any comments or questions you'd like to directly ask me, you can email me at mycurlspeak@gmail.com. Thank you.